Hey guys, Jonathan here, back again with another video. In this video, we're going to talk about the concept of forms. If I go to our application as we built it, I added some CSS styling so that we can be able to make the web page look nicer. And we can be able to navigate to different pages of the applications by using the links in the header or the navigation part of the application. I'm going to be introducing the concept of forms. Now, forms in Flask are implemented with a library called Flask-WTF. Flask-WTF works on top of WT Forms, which is a forms validation and rendering library for Python web development. So with Flask-WTF, we have Flask-specific support for WT Forms. And in this tutorial, we're going to be able to use Flask-WTF so as to create web forms that come handy with validation, global CSRF protection, reCAPTCHA support, and file uploads. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to go to Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to stop our server. And first have to activate our virtual environment. So I'm going to say source app env scripts and activate. And after activating this, I'm going to install Flask-WTF. So I'm going to say pip install Flask-WTF. And then we'll wait for this to finish installing. So it's going to collect WTF forms, WT forms, and after installing this, we are going to create our forms. So I'm going to go to my app.py and start creating the form. So the first thing will be to import. So we're going to import from Flask WTF. We're going to import Flask form. Now Flask form is a class that helps us to add Flask support to an existing WTF forms class. So let's create our forms. Let's import our fields. So I'm going to say from WT forms import. We're going to import string field. Also going to import text area field. Also going to import password field. We're also going to import submit field. So the next thing will be to import our validator. So I'm going to say from WT forms validators import. I'm going to import input required, and I'm going to import equal to, and I'm going to import length. I'm going to cover most of these validators in the example below. So I'm going to create my first form. I'll come down just down here, and I'm going to create a class. So let's call this our sign up form. So I'm going to say class sign up form. Sign up form is going to inherit from Flask form. Let's say Flask form. And when you create this, the next thing will be to create our fields that are going to belong to that form. So we may have a username, which will be a string field. Now the first thing, string field takes in very many labels. That, as you see, we have a label, and we have a validators, you have filters, and the description. So in this case, we're going to start with a label. And we shall say that our label is going to be username. Now when we create a username, the next thing will be to add validators. Now these validators are specific to which kind of validation you may want. For example, if you put input required, we may put in a message. It takes in a message of the error that should be shown in case we haven't filled that field. So we may say that our message will be username should not be blank. Then we are going to copy the same for the case of the email. So we're going to copy this. And when you copy this, we're going to also add I'm going to paste it here. Now I'm going to also add another validator. That validator is going to be length. So what length does is to help us to determine the length of the inputs we would like to enter within our field. So I may say length. Oh, did a mistake. It's supposed to be in the list of validators. So if I say length, I'm actually going to make this go on another line. So I'm going to say length. So as you see, the length takes in the mean length and the maximum length. So we can say that the mean username, the least amount of characters we may want for our username may be 5, and the maximum amount of characters may be 25. And now we are going to replace this. So we're going to do, this is going to be the email. So we're going to change this to email. We're going to change this and say email. However, for the field name or the label, I'm going to say email. And then I'm also going to say that email should not be left blank. Now I'll repeat the same thing for, I have to copy this length and put it in the same place. So we are going to have, so we're going to have an email. Here we can specify that the longest email can be, here we can specify that the longest email should be, let's say we can say that the longest email should be, let's say 45 characters. And then you can also be able to see if we add a message. So we're going to put in a message right here, and what this message is going to do, in case you have an error, the message will be returned. So we're going to say message is going to be equal to email should have less than 45 characters. Let me correct the spelling of this. So according to what we've done here, we've created an username and an email field, and they are both string fields. Now we want to also create a password field. So I'm going to say password, and a password field is going to be a password field, and it's going to have a label of password. And what it's going to do is to have a list of validators. So we may pass in a validator, and the first validator we may want is input required. So I'm going to pass in input required. And here we may pass in our message like password should not be left. We can't say should not be left blank. And we can also add length. So we can be able to validate our password's length. So we can say that we want to also add length for our passwords. So let me add length. So I'll come here and say I want to also add length, so that we say that the main password we want is 8 characters, or we may say 5 characters, and the maximum password we want is going to be, let's say, 12 characters. Now we must also put a message like message equal to password should be between 5 and 12 characters. So, and now the other thing we may want is to confirm the password, to confirm whether the passwords match for both fields of the password and the confirmation. So I'm going to create a confirmation field. So what I'm going to do is to just copy this. I'm going to copy this field and then paste it. However, I'm going to call this confirm. So I'm going to call this confirm. So this is going to have a label of confirm password. So I'm going to say confirm password, and the validators are going to be the same. However, we're going to also add the equal to validator. Have I import it? No, I didn't. I actually imported it. Now when I go down I am going to say equal to. So what this does is to check whether the input in both fields is is equal. So if I say equal to, we're going to specify that it should be equal to the password, and we can pass in a message of passwords do not match. Now the next thing is to create our submit field. So we're going to create a submit field by saying submit is going to be equal to our submit field, and it's going to just have a label of sign up. So let's try to see this. So I'm going to create a route that goes to our sign up page. And the next thing I'm going to do is to create the route that goes to our sign in page. So I'm going to say at app.route, and then I think I'm going to delete this code now. So I'm going to delete it and come and say def sign up. Then we're going to have our form being equal to the form we created, which is sign up form. And once we have this, we're going to just return render template. So we're going to create a template called sign up.html, and then we're going to put in a context. So we're going to add a context. Now right here is where I'm going to create my context. So I'm going to say context is equal to a dictionary with a key of form, and then the value is going to be our form instance. Now if I save, I'm going to go and create that template. So I'm going to go to templates and say new file. So I am going to say I'm going to create a file called signup.html. Now in signup.html, I'm going to extend layout.html to template inheritance, and then I'm going to say block. So let me check out my layout.html file. So it's block content and end block content. So I'm going to say block content and end block content and save. Now after this, I am going to bring in my form. So I'm going to create a form. I closed it. Let me open it again. So I'm going to create my form. So I always have to wrap it within a form, and I specify the method. So our form is going to have a method of post. And then just inside there, I'm going to come and say dot. Actually, I'm going to wrap this in a class called form, in a div with a class of form. So I'm going to say div class form. That failed. So I'm going to say dot form and tab, which auto completes for me. So now I'm going to say form. I'm going to create a form with a post method, and within that form, I'm going to put, and I'm going to just simply put sign, just create. This is going to be create your account. Now after that, I'm going to come here and write. So I'm going to say dot form group. So I'm going to create a form group, and then within the form group, I'm going to come and say that we want to create our label. So this label is going to be for let's say it's going to be, actually, even if we don't use labels, we may use paragraphs for now. So I may say that what we want is, so we access the different fields within the form by, let's see, so we have username, email, and we have its username, email, password, and confirm password. Now the way we can access such fields is by saying, so we can come just right here in our signup.html, and then access the form, and then we just say form dot username dot label. So another thing I'm going to do is to create a link that's going to take us to the sign up page. So I'm going to say login, and before login, I'm going to add an anchor tag that takes us to the sign up route. So I'm going to say for Then I'm going to call it sign up, and then this is going to be sign up. So let's save and see this in action. So I'm going to run my app, and when I say python app.py, oh, route is missing a row, which is the route we're going to. So if I go back to our sign up route, I missed the row, so the row is, so we're going to just call it sign up. So when I run again, our server is running, and when I navigate to localhost 5000, we have a sign up form. So this one is saying that you require a secret key to use CSRF. Now, when I go, I can set up the secret key by just saying, so I can come and say app.secret key. Then I specify the secret key to be any string. However, you would like to keep this string as secret as possible, as it may lead to your application being hacked. So let's go back to our front end, and now our form has been created. Now, just like you see, we created the username label by calling form.username.label. Now, the next thing we may want to add is a field. So I'm going to do paragraph and then wrap it within the paragraph. So what I'm going to do is to say form.username. And what this is going to do is going to render the field of username. If you want to attach a class to this, you may specify it just within here. So we may say class is equal to, we may say form control. So I'm going to copy this and paste it for the different fields we are having. So I'm going to say, going to paste this for, this is going to be for the email. So I'm going to say that what we want here is the email. Now I'm also going to do the same for the password and the confirm password field. So I'm going to copy and paste. So this is going to be password. So this is going to be password, and then we need the one for the confirmation of the password. Now I'm going to paste, and this is going to be confirm and confirm.label. So I'm going to say this is going to be confirm. When I save and go back, so these are the different fields I have for the different field. These are the different fields I have for the form I created. Now the next thing will be to say that we need a submission field. So I'm going to create a form group div. So I'm going to say this is form group, and just right here I'm going to specify that all we need in this is our submit field. So I'm going to call form.submit. Then I save. So when I come here, we have our form being rendered. However, if we want to style this up, we can come to our CSS. So we can go to our styles.css. And when we go to our styles.css, we can start writing the styles that are specific to the form. So now, as we have our form, we can say that our form has a width of, let's say, 50% of the entire screen, and we can say that it has a margin of auto just to place it in the middle. Then we can also say that it has some padding of 20 pixels. Now we can also say that our form group, our form groups, they have a padding of, let's say, 15 pixels, and our form controls, the inputs, form controls have a width of 100%, and they have some padding of 15%. So let's see this. When you save, you can go and be able to see that, oh, we're having quite large padding. Let's see what's going on. So we are having an error, a CSS error. Let's fix that. Instead of saying 15 pixels, I said 15%. Now when I refresh, we're having our form being displayed like this. However, it kind of goes like this. So I'm going to write some CSS. This is not a CSS tutorial, but please bear with me. So when I go to header, I will be able to say that it has a position of fixed, and I may say that it has a Z index of, let's say, 5. So when we save this, we want to see that our header does not overlap our UI. Now, when I say when you show this, you see that the header is fixed, but then the create your account form or the sign up form is being rendered the way we want it. Now, after this, the thing we may want to is to style the buttons. I may come and say, I'm going to create a class called my btn. So I'm going to say dot my button my btn. So I may say padding. We may add the padding of 20 pixels. Then we may say that we have border radius. Then we may say that we want a border radius of, and we may say that we want a border radius of 30 pixels, and we may want a color of, let's say, white. So let's see this in action. So when we go to the sign up, we haven't yet styled our button with that class. So what I'm going to do is to add that class to our sign up form. Now when I go to sign up.html, I'm going to come and simply add that class. So I'm going to say our button has a class of my btn. So when I save and go back to our front end, you see that our button has been modified. So let's add some bit of color to it. Now when I go to styles.css, I can be able to add and say the background color, let's call it Doja blue. And we may say that we don't want our button to have a border, so we may say border is none. So when we save, we are having our button that looks like this. We can also say that we want the text transform. Forgive me for writing a lot of CSS in this video, so I'm going to say that this is going to be capitalized, and when we save, we're having a button that looks like this. Interesting. Now the next thing is to test our validation. Now to test our validation, you may want to access the different errors that are displayed in every field you may have for the application. Now what you're going to do is to come to our form controls, and we may say that we may want to add the border radius. I know I have stuck in writing CSS. Okay. So to save that, we may come and refresh. That looks better. So we may say border. We may say border 1 pixel solid and light gray. Okay, so that is a bit nicer. Now the next thing we may want is to access the error. So I'm going to create a class called error. I'm going to say error. So I may want an error class. Now this error class is what I'm going to use to style my error. So I may just say color is going to be equal to red. Now what I want is to come to sign up and display errors for every field. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and say if I'm going to come here and say for, I'm going to write a for loop which goes like this. Then I say for error in form dot username dot errors. So I want to create a small with a class of error, and what this is going to have is the error. So I'm going to come and say error. Now I'm going to copy this for the different fields. I'm going to come and say once I copy this, I'm going to add fields, and I'm also going to add this field just down here. So I'm going to copy paste this. Now I'm also going to paste it just down here. Say paste. So I need to specify that these errors are going to be for whatever field they have. So I'm going to say password. And here I'm going to say So I'm going to say that here I'm going to say that this is for the username, so this has to be for the confirm. I'm going to say form.confirm, and right here this is for error in password, this is password, so this is email. Now, having done our errors, the next thing I want to do is to try to test whether our validation is going to work. So I'm going to write a post method. So I'm going to go to my app.py, just right here, and I'm going to go to the route that renders our form. So you're going to specify methods, and methods simply shows the different methods that we're going to use for that specific route. Now we can have a list of methods such as we can have get and post methods. So what this means is we can have one route that carries out operations for both get and post methods. Now when we say get, we are simply rendering, and when you say post, we are simply sending data to the server. Now let's see this in action. Now our form we have been instantiating our form right here, and the next thing we want to do is to specify that if the method is post, so we will want to import request. So I'm going to go to Flask and import request, the request object, and then come and we're going to go to our sign up route. So we're going to specify that if the request dot it carries a method, so we're going to say if the request dot method is equal to post, and we and the Flask-WTF has a method called validate on submit, and what it does is to check whether the method is post and the form is validated. So we're going to say and form dot validate on submit, so it validates on submit. What we're going to do is return sign up worked successfully. So we're going to save and see this in action. Now the next thing we want to do is to add the action to our form. A form usually has the action and the method. We already specified the method, which is going to be post. Now the next thing we want is to specify that this method is going to do operations that are specific to the sign up route. So what we're going to do is to add that, go back and confirm, so it's sign up. We're going to say it's going to just sign up user. So let's refresh. We're having our form, so let's try it with different errors. So I'm going to add the username of that, an email of I'm going to add an email, so at gmail.com, and then I'm going to add some passwords. I'm going to say passwords, and I'm going to say, so when I try to save this, we are redirected to the page. However, we are not able to see our errors. Let's try to refresh. So we are having a problem here. Let's try rewriting our password. So I'm going to say password and password. So try to send this. So when we go, we see that when we post, we have a 200 message, and when you post, you're having a 200 message. Let's see why it's not working as intended. So we say return sign up worked successfully. This is if request method is equal to post and form.validate on submit. Let's see. If we remove the request method equals post and refresh, so if we come, so let's try to submit our data. So I need to put password, and then we have a problem. So the problem is when we submit, our form is not. Let's try to see. So we created a sign up form which we instantiated here, and we want to submit this form to the database. So let's see what's going on, what's hindering us. So we're going to say if request dot method is equal to post. Let's try to first test our posting. So we may just want to return posted. So let's have, when we go back to our application, try to navigate to somewhere else, come back, we try to input some data. So we need to input username and email. Oh, sorry for this. So I need to put email. Then I'm going to add a password. So I'm going to say password. Then I'm going to add the password, which is going to be that. So when I try to send, we see that the post method has worked. Now let's try to validate our method. So I'm going to go back to the sign up, add the username, which is this, and an email. So I'm going to say, so let me add, and then I'm also going to add the password. So the password is going to be that. So when I add, we get posted. Now what if I enter a wrong password? I'm going to say password. So this is going to be a wrong password. When I post, so we see posted. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to validate. So I'm going to say request the method is equal to post, and we say if form dot validate on submit. We are going to say if form dot validate on submit. We're going to say that return validation worked. So let's try to see this in action. So when you go and we submit our forms, I'm going to add this, and I'm going to also add this. So when I say we are not redirected here, let's try to inspect this and we see where the problem is. Actually, I'll view the page source. Let me close the developer console. So when I come, I'm going to come and view page source. Now I'm going to go and see that what is wrong. So as you see, we are not having our errors being displayed. However, the validation seems to work. So let's see what is wrong. So we go for, we wrote errors. Let's say errors and then errors. So I think you guys realize how this is not that hard. We get errors and solve them. So I'm going to say errors, form.password.errors and form.confirm.errors, and when I save, when I go back, we are going to have this. So if I go back here and try to refresh this, we're going to write different passwords and going to write some different password, and when I save, our errors are showing. So you see that passwords do not match, which is interesting. Now if I put in a wrong right password, and if I say like, then let me say I do not write the email, so let's try to submit. So I'm already being shown that the email is not. So let me try to submit this. I'm not having validation here. However, let me try to add a gmail.com, and let's see, we leave the username blank and then we write the passwords. So I'm going to save this, And you see, please fill in these fields, which means our validation is working. So when I add the correct username, correct passwords, and when I submit, there's still a problem here. So let's try to add this. So if I add, hoping the password match, there's a problem. So if I go and write, what's the problem? So let's see. Username dot errors from the password dot errors. Now let's try to add some passwords that do not match on purpose. Passwords do not match. Now I think we've been able to complete our validation, and the next thing we're going to do is to create a login form. So I'm going to just copy this code. I'm going to come to my app.py, and within my forms right here, I'm also going to create a login form. So I'm going to say class login form. It's going to inherit from Flask form, and what we're going to do for this case, we're just going to copy some field like the submit field. We're going to copy the submit field, and here it will be login, and I'm also going to copy the password field. So I'm going to say password is going to just be here, and I'm also going to copy the email field. Let's say we need to validate with email, so I'm going to say email. Then I come just down this side and paste my email there. Now I'm also going to go to login.html, so I'm going to copy some of this HTML. I'm going to copy this entire HTML here. I'm going to login.html and I'm going to paste it in. Now what I'll need is the password. I'm going to keep the password. I'm going to remove the username field, and let's see this. So I'm going to add this. When you navigate to login, we're going to have this field. So form is not defined, so that means you have to put it in our instance. Now I'm going to come to login to the login page. Now I'm going to say that my form in this case is going to be the login form, and in my context I'm going to say that my form is going to be equal to the form. So let's save this. When I save, my server is going to restart, and when it restarts, I'm going to be able to see the form. So we have a form for the various routes that require forms. So we have the create sign up form. We also have the login form. Let's change this text. So we're going to go to login.html, and we're going to say log into your account. So we save this. So now it's working as expected. So now we're having different pages and we have forms. So in this video, we've been able to create forms using Flask and Flask-WTF. We've learned how to validate forms and how to create various form fields. We've also learned how we can be able to style forms. So if this video has helped you, feel free to like, comment, and share it to a friend. Thanks for watching, and let's keep in touch for another video. Thanks guys.